Um, so welcome. We are recording, and here's Lena joining us now. So welcome everybody. Welcome everybody who's here live. Most of all, welcome you, Dave Kibby. Thank you very much for joining me in this for this month's conversation. I'm delighted that you've agreed to do so, and I'm looking forward to our conversation. And welcome to anybody who might be watching the recording. So, as usual, I haven't thought to set myself up with the blurb where I can read it at the same time as being engaged here in Zoom. But basically, what you said you wanted to do, Dave, was to do real-time coaching to offer real-time coaching for real-time problems, rather than a sort of pontification on the nature of life or anything like that. I'm borrowing that word from something you used just a moment ago. And I think that's lovely, and I think it's refreshing. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing how this unfolds. And if nobody's quick to ask questions, I do have some to ask on behalf of friends. So Dave, over to you. Why don't you just introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, thanks for inviting me. It's really nice to be here. Yes, I just thought, hello, Anne. I just mentioned the not pontificating thing. I don't mean that quite as unkindly as it sounds, perhaps. I just thought it would be nice to, like, the thing I most love is helping people, get from unstuck to where they want to be, doing the stuff that they want to do in a way that really pleases them, and like the ordinary simple stuff of life. And I think sometimes there's so many conversations now online, particularly with, like some very strong views about non-duality and the principles and who's doing it the right way and the wrong way. And I think just, I think back to, I was thinking about this conversation a little bit while I was cooking the kids' tea this evening, and I was remembering a story that I heard Chipman tell. And forgive me if it's not particularly accurate, because it won't be, but the essence of it that I understood was sometimes he would go to Sid and he would sort of say he got this problem or whatever, and Sid would just kind of put his arm around him and walk him to the window and just get him to look at the world. And he wouldn't sort of say, no, well, what you really need to do, Chip, is you need to understand like your true nature and who you are. That's what you really need. He would just show him the world, or he'd take him to the fire and look at the fire crackling, and something about the simplicity of that just really hit me this evening when I was just cooking the kids' tea, like just doing simple everyday stuff. And I don't think it particularly matters that much who I think I am or what my latest theory or philosophy is. What I know is, that I've got a family, and I have work to do, and I'm attempting again. I'm on another diet and fitness craze, so I could bore your senses about that if you like. It's like just an ordinary life, and that's what I really meant. Was I'd love to hear from like ordinary people like me, you, and all of us about their ordinary lives, because I find that very exciting, very charming, a lot of fun to be involved in, and I find that far more fun than perhaps other ways of expressing things. So that's why I thought it might be fun to do some live coaching or conversation or something like that, rather than where I am latest on the theory of everything or whatever. So that was the purpose behind it.
Hi, fab. Yeah, I love that. It's funny. I've been having, maybe because this call was, in my mind, but I've been having some sort of similar thoughts today. And I'm on the board of a charity which puts it's not only men, but mainly men with a history of offending or gang involvement into training and work. And there was a board meeting yesterday. But what I love about this, first of all, what I love about it is the whole ethos is, we're kind of all in it together, and it's a very kind of warm, touchy-feely, huggy thing. And I like that. But also what I like about it is it's about just being effective, and at the board meeting we came up with, quite a few, all the board members and some of the staff and officers have, different roles to do, different things to do. And I was along in the place itself today, the canteen where the main training takes place. And it was just one of those days where all my action points had been able to, I'd be able to get someone on the phone or get someone else by email, and they just kind of, it was just that sort of everything in the universe was coming together, and we've made progress. And of course, it's not always like that. It's not in my gift, it's not in my control, but what is in our control, I guess. And we could debate that too, but is that we can take the action. That you can't always guarantee the outcome, but you can take the action. You can keep taking the next step. And for me, that was something I was hearing something of that in what you were saying, that that we can do.
Perfect. Yeah,
straightforward, lovely. And it's just in front of us, and that
yep.
consistently done can lead to a very remarkable kind of outcome. Anyway, yeah. So, do you want to say a bit more, Dave, or would you like to invite questions right from the get-go?
Let's just go for questions. I've got nothing of any great interest to say about me. I think most people who listen to it probably know me or have avoided me or something. I don't know. So it's all good. Let's do. I just love questions. That's what excites me. The first time I really got excited about doing Q&A as a format was when I watched Gary Vaynerchuk do it, and I got close to doing it in some training sessions that I've been running in corporate stuff, basically because the environment was so chaotic. I didn't know how to quell the storm. So I just did some Q&A and on-the-spot coaching. That's the closest I'd come. Then all of a sudden I watched Vaynerchuk about 2014, I think, or maybe 2015, do an entire keynote where his intro, bearing in mind half the audience didn't know who the hell he was. And for those of you who don't know, he created an online wine organization called winelibrary.com and a social media company called VaynerMedia. He's a Belarusian immigrant in the US, absolutely foul-mouthed, a bundle of energy, and one of the most authentically genuine, unapologetically him people I've ever come across. And I like that a lot. I really do. And yeah, he rocked up and he did this 2-hour Q&A, he opened up and he said, "How many of you know who I am?" in the audience? It was quite a big audience, about half the hands went up, and he just started laughing. He went, "How many of you have got no idea who I am and hate me already?" It was just so lovely to watch. And I suddenly thought, oh God, yeah, you don't have to do any form of session or talk or anything the way someone else has shown you. And for me, Q&A is what I try and do, as much Q&A as possible in any training or whatever. So cool. Yeah, let's do Q&A.
Cool. So who's first up? Are you brave enough? No, I'm sorry. I shouldn't, because actually, in a conversation we had where we were just sort of catching up, I can't remember if you asked me a question but certainly something came out of that was very helpful, that gave me a completely different perspective on an aspect of my business. So
oh yeah, I remember you wrote to me. Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, and
it was good.
Yeah, so I although I'm being facetious, please do take this opportunity.
Oh yeah, and like as Christian saying, sometimes people say brave, and I think one of the things I'm known for most is being direct, or as people sometimes say, brutally direct. And the answer is yes, I am really direct. It's like with people who pay to come in my trainings or pay me for coaching or whatever, I'll usually stop them chit-chatting really quickly, because I know that that's a settling process. I know that most people do it. I get it. Like I do that too when I'm anxious or whatever. But it doesn't get you very far. It's much better to just it's incredible how quickly we can get clear and move on with things, and how ordinary that can become, and how every day, and how coaching or transformation doesn't have to have this big sort of it doesn't have to have Mozart playing petals and relentless orgasms all the time. It can be much more straightforward, much more transactionary and powerful. I spent 3 days with some educators once, and they had coaching as a culture, but they had coaching as a culture which was quite formal and clipboardy, and people would when they were about to coach, they would change how they sat, They would sit in a powerful way, and hello, and then I'm going to coach you. So I'm now in a powerful coaching pose. And they would change how they talk to each other. So we've been talking normally like this, Christian, and then they look across and so Christian, how are things going with you in this weird, like this weird.
I would like like that.
Yeah, and so you then play the role of, and I watched them do it. Like you'd play the role of, oh, it's quite challenging for me, Dave, at the moment. There's quite a lot going on. It's quite difficult. And yet 2 seconds earlier, they were like being completely normal and dealing with stuff and transacting with stuff. And so we spent 3 days picking apart the nonsense that they thought coaching was and turned it into something where they could just sit with each other and solve challenges and move forward like really fast, because schools are fast-paced places. There isn't lots of time to like deeply connect and all that kind of ethereal stuff that we get caught up on. There isn't the luxury for that. You've got 5 minutes before the next 30 kids stampede into your room, and you need something to shift. And I'm just on the cusp, which is really exciting, of starting to do some turnaround work with some local schools. I'm getting really close to get my foot in the door to do it. And a big part of that is going to be, look, can we just stop playing games? We stop the nonsense and just tell each other what's going on. Like within a big frame of, like you said, Christian, we're all in this together. There's your big frame, if you like. Some people might say, we're all one being, diffracted in many ways. Whichever way you want to look at it, we're all in it together, right? Whichever frame you want to put on it, we're in it together. So why don't we behave like that? So that's why direct kind of works for me.
Cool. So, who has a question?
Who's got a question? Oleg's probably got about 30, knowing him.
Oleg's
not got questions for me.
Oleg, are you going to come in?
Yeah, I may come in, but I don't know what to ask. But anyway, Dave, I am a new coach. What advice can you give for a startup like me? Where can I start? That's what's coming to mind now.
It's funny, actually, when you said I'm a new coach, I get what you were saying, but kind of in the same vein, I thought, well, no, you're not. And then I thought, well, actually, so am I every time I talk to somebody. So
Okay.
so do you know what I mean? Our conditioning and our culture says things like new. We should assume some kind of a different challenge or whatever. But to me, the challenge is always much the same. Really, it's to elegantly, as far as you can, find out or have someone find out what's going on for themselves, and to be able to review that really, really quickly, and move through to where they want to be from where they are currently. And I don't think that ever changes. And different people will have different frames of what coaching is or whatever. But again, I've thrown most of those out over time, if I'm honest. I suppose I didn't come into coaching as a coach, really. I came into coaching because a young guy who was a friend, and he was CEO of a software company that the company I used to run used for their ERP systems, and he'd taken over in an IPO as CEO, and I knew him because of the business relationship. And one day he phoned me up and he said, look, I'm really stuck on some stuff. Would you coach me? And I was like, I don't know. What does that mean? I don't know. This is sort of probably 12 years ago, I would guess. And I've always been around like coaching or mentoring or teaching in some shape or form because, I was in sport and music and stuff. So you're used to all that environment. So I'm used to people helping other people to get better. And I was a teacher for 10 years. So it's normal for me. And he said, well, I don't know. I'll pay you. I was like, cool. That hadn't even dawned on me. I said, what do you want to do? He said, well, come over and chat for an hour. I was like, oh, okay, I could do that. And that's how it started. And we did that. And he seemed to gain a lot from it. And by this time I'd kind of got into personal development a little bit, into NLP to start with. You probably tell my language is still littered with NLPisms, which is quite funny. And so I thought I quite like this. If that's what coaching is, I quite like it. So I thought, well, I wonder if I'd be any good at it. That was my next query, was like, well, I've got no frame of reference, nothing to know if I'm any good. So I spoke to a chap who was sort of my business coach at the time, but I didn't know him as that. He worked for the accountants that we used, and I used to meet with him monthly because I just needed somebody to bounce ideas off. Didn't particularly have that in the organization I was in. So, and he said, oh, I've got a friend who's a coach, and he was a guy who worked for a big company of solicitors in London, and I went and had breakfast with him and just sat and chatted. And I'm a bit slow up on the uptake often, which is quite funny. And I didn't kind of realize that he was sort of testing me all breakfast, but I just kept answering and talking, like I'm doing now. And he said, look, yeah, I think you'd be good.
Yeah, thank you.
You'll be able to do it. And I was like, okay, cool. And I didn't really make it. I think sometimes we can make too much of a thing versus the simple, like what I saw in what that chap wanted was he just wanted some help with stuff.
Yeah.
Which is why you know me well enough, like pretty much every session or every time somebody books a complimentary call or whatever, I always start with, how can I help?
Great.
That's my opening gambit. How can I help? Because as far as I can see, that's what I'm there for.
Can I have a follow-up question?
You can, as far as I'm concerned, but Christian's
okay.
She's like, yeah.
You see,
No, of course.
You're right. I am for quite a long time in personal development. So I used to follow Tony Robbins, all those beautiful people, and then I wanted 3 principles. I thought 3 principles is the way. Now I talk about thought. I avoid Tony Robbins. I don't like him. And then I started doing duality, and I see differences between duality, 3 principles, and I got confused. There was a time when I was completely lost what I want to talk about. What should my practice look like? But now I have clarity. I know what I want. But I want to ask you your opinion. What do you think when you find yourself in this kind of confused, how do you call, state of mind? What should I do?
Well, you said you had clarity, so I'm confused now. So you managed to
confuse I have, but I want to ask you your opinion. What do you think about that?
About what? About
for
what?
Me, for instance, from my perspective, I just go what my heart tells me. For instance, I can speak about anything what I want. I don't bother. I speak about the principles, or I speak about duality or whatever. I just go and do whatever I want.
Okay, so my number one priority is whoever's sitting opposite me. That's number one. And I think, all teachings are beautiful in their own way. So like that's about as deep as I need to go on that, I reckon. So it's all really lovely, and I quite enjoy watching Tony Robbins nowadays. It's quite entertaining. In fact, I saw an advert for his 4-day thing, and I thought, oh, I wonder if I could go through 4 days of that. I don't know. That might be quite interesting. So like I'm not against that. So it's always the person opposite is our prime concern, in my view. I think I've probably put down this idea of there's something I need to teach them so that they'll then be okay.
Yeah,
I think I've put that down. You'd have to ask the people I talk to whether I have or not, but I suspect I have. Like, I'm not trying to, just hold still and I'll non-dual you, then you'll be fine. I don't sense that coming up as much. I might be interested with them at how they're looking at things to see how much room for re-looking there is.
Yeah.
And so I might ask them, like just straightforward, I suppose what people call coaching questions, like, can you tell me that again, but in a different way? just to see if they're in their own re-explanation, that stuff like that. So much more ordinary than the need to pass a philosophy on. I would say if I was gonna comment on any change in my work currently, it's like I feel absolutely zero necessity to philosophize with anybody, which is why I thought I'd try and avoid it on this call. And I'm completely fine that other people are doing it, and it's like, all good, that's great, like wonderful, brilliant. I just don't particularly want to do it. It doesn't strike me as being what's required.
Okay. So to summarize, by the way, you're saying I should focus on the client. That's it. Don't bother with anything else.
That strikes me as a good idea. Yeah. I think it's quite difficult to really give somebody the attention that they want if you're waiting to pounce with what you think is true.
Yeah.
As well meant as that is, and as understandable in certain context frames as that might be, if you're genuinely convinced that that is the solution, then it's quite likely that you're going to be kind of sitting waiting. Any minute now I can teach. Any minute now. Any minute now. Any minute now. It would make sense.
Yeah.
Do that. That's fine. But if you're not holding, but remember, that's a frame. That's only a frame.
Yes.
But people talk very strongly about it. No, it's this way. It is this way. Oh, okay.
It's no way.
Last year you said it was that way. No, I know, but now it's this. Now it's this way. Yeah, but you were quite convinced about the last one. Yeah. But now, I mean, that's how we all operate. Whatever. So that's just not particularly how I want to be with people. I just noticed it was getting in the way.
Cool. Thank you, Dave.
So I just put it down.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Cool. See, look, that wasn't too direct, everybody, was it? Look, you can talk to me. That's good.
Lovely. Who's next?
People I don't know, actually. That's really nice. Or people I can half see. People's names who recognise, but I perhaps haven't spoken to them before.
Yeah.
I'd love to speak to any of those people who are willing.
Anne, are you putting your hand up because you're going to come in? It's like an auction here.
No, Anne's way too wise to talk to me. She's played that game.
I have a question, asking for a friend, if that's okay.
Of course. Yeah.
No, genuinely, she'll kill me. Oh no, Sue, you go ahead. Sue's raised her hand. It's mine will wait. Come in, Sue. Do you want to unmute yourself, or?
I just did, Christian, but go ahead. You were in the middle of it. Go. I'll wait. I couldn't hear you.
Oh, look, now they're fighting over me. I just feel so
bad. Fighting over
he's all yours. He's all yours.
All right. Hi, Dave.
Hi, Sue.
So I have been kind of following you for a while, and I jumped onto your challenge and did 0. Didn't introduce myself, and I just missed it. So sorry. I was pulled, but then I just went somewhere else. So
no worries.
Thank you. I probably have a million questions, but I'm intrigued. I'd like to know more. You said something about working with kids or getting in with schools, and I will give you really briefly. That's something that's really calling to me right now.
Okay.
I'm volunteering as a mentor in the schools where I live, and once a week I get to hang out and in school with a 10-year-old and her friends and the other mentors. And I'm really feeling called to offer groups for these amazing, fabulous kids that are underserved, and I would love to just be with them. And I presented it to the organization, and they're really lit up, but no follow through. So I'd like to know a little bit about what you're doing in that world, if I heard you correctly.
Okay, yeah, it's really early days. I've done work in schools before, doing trainings and stuff like I outlined, but the work I actually want to do is turnaround work. So Ofsted in the UK, the governing body who decide whether schools are terrible, require improvement, good, or outstanding. I can't remember what terrible's called. It's not called terrible, but it's special measures. That's right. It basically means terrible. And so a lot of schools slip into when they go into the category of RI, requires improvement. They basically Ofsted are on them, and HMI, Her Majesty's Inspectorate, are on Ofsted to be on them. So like that's where you don't want to be, but it's quite easy to slip into that. But the reason for going in that way is because at that point they have need. So it's always easier. Like if you're a dentist,
they have skin in the game, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If you're a dentist, it's always easier to sell to people with toothache.
Yes.
So it's just the same thing. So there's something there to if you, I don't like the word particularly, but leverage. There's leverage there. So basically, I've done some work with local schools, and I've got a few advocates, people who will go, yeah, this guy knows some stuff about quite a lot of things, and he's useful to have around. So basically, I did what I tend to do, which is go to people I know and say, look, I've got no credibility in this. I've done training work with schools and whatever. I'm a professional coach, entrepreneur, back history and CEO, and I've made a million mistakes as well. So like, there's my credibility. Okay. But I reckon I can really help you with your turnaround schools. Right. I really think I can. And if you're willing to put skin in the game, I'll do the same. And that startles most people, because most people aren't used to that degree of directness.
I love that. If you're willing to put skin in the game, I'll do the same.
No, completely. I am. Yeah. And so it will be voluntary initially. I'm quite happy doing that. And I said to them, I'm quite happy doing this. Right.
Oh, like, so you're happy to start without payment?
Yeah. In that context, yeah. I've done it in so many contexts. It's how I got into I've made a habit of it almost. Like it's how I got into corporate coaching, because I got no, not like somebody like Molly who's really like well officially qualified as a coach. I don't have that. But I wanted to do corporate coaching because it paid well and I was really fascinated by it. And so I started by helping people. Literally, I just talked my way into things. Like all of you who know me know I can talk for Britain. Those of you who are only just meeting me, I've already worked out I can talk for Britain. And I just get a sense of I could go and help with that. That would be a really good thing for Dave to do. So it's really no more complicated than that. So I met a friend recently and I said, look, I think now's the time. I really want to get into turnaround work. And she was like, oh, that's exciting. I'm like, yeah, I'm excited too, but I've got no cred. And I'm not going to bullshit anybody and or try and make up anything or put up a web page or any crap like that. I need introductions. I need to sit in front of people and have them know who I am and how I think I can help, so that they can make an informed decision about whether they're willing to do it or not. And so she had a meeting this week, and I got an email, probably within a half an hour of the meeting, the CEO would love to meet you. That's it. That's all I need. I only need the door to open. That's it. That's all I'm ever after. The door to open, nothing more.
Well, yeah, you said a really key thing that I don't know if it rang for anybody else, but that just approaching people and talking about something even before it's fully formed. I don't know how to do that. I'm just getting the glimmer that it's maybe a possibility. I know how to hide behind, I'll write a sales page and I don't know, get a URL or, so I'm sorry, I got distracted by the chat. But anyway, that part about just of having the conversation and presenting it more just as a, let's look at this, instead of like thingifying it to where I end up alone in a room making sales pages, and yeah, you know what I mean?
Cool. I'd love it if you'd make me some sales pages. Thank you.
I actually am pretty damn good at it. We should.
Yeah, no. It sounds like it. I'm hearing you, and I'm going, oh, I'm excited now. I would say one of the things I'm quite good at, and I don't know why, is recruiting people to help. I think mostly because I have a genuine belief that most people want to help me. As much as I irritate the shit out of some people, I know that. I get it. The personality can be quite jarry. I understand it completely, but I still really think people want to help, and most of us aren't well trained enough in activating that, activating, you know. And so I sat with my friend. It was last Saturday morning actually, while my son was having a violin lesson, and we just went for brekkie. And I basically written to her and said, look, I need a favor. And I don't know whether you think you can help me, but I'm going to ask anyway. So she's like, okay, you know, cool, let's meet up. So we did. And I just lay it on the line. And I tell you what was really interesting, Sue, and for everybody, is she said, well, do you want to write stuff down? And I went, no, I'm crap at that. Like I'm a this kind of person, white to the eyes. And she went, oh, don't worry. I know what you do. I'll write it. And what she wrote, it was like gold. I was like, shit, I wish I could have written that. That's really good. It's just outside of my, I don't do it. And so I've had to learn to adapt that lack of skill or pretend problem or whatever it is. I've just had to adapt it to make it work for the bit that I am good at. So if people ask me for proposals now, I'm just really straight with them and say, look, I can't write proposals. I'm rubbish at it. And they go, well, we need something. I say, cool. Would you mind helping me? So can we write it together now? So I've got the skeleton. Because what happens is that like when I'm talking, I'm on it. Like I know, I can feel it, and I can feel when I'm off as well. And then I'll go away, just like you're describing.
Wait a minute. You asked the prospective client to help you write the proposal?
Yeah,
my head just exploded. First of all, a minute ago I wrote down that to activate the thing about asking for help, I have to activate the assumption that people want to help me, because that's not the way I walk around in the world. So
okay, cool.
Yeah.
No, that would make sense. I'm just trying to but yeah, and I tell you, it's so interesting that these things, you know, people might call them wisdom or whatever, they just show up. But how I got into corporate coaching was by helping. I went and did a training somewhere, and everybody had said the boss guy was a real monster, and you know, like whatever, and would never put his laptop away in meetings. And I always insist on people putting their phones away and their laptops away, because I want, you know, that's respect for the environment as far as I can see. And so we started the training, whatever, and they built this guy up. So I thought, I wonder if I can spot him, like when I go into the room. I wonder if I can see what he's like or whatever. So I went in, and they just all looked like ordinary nice people to me. Anyway, there was one guy who was reluctant to put his laptop away. And so I just kind of leant over and went, hey, just stick it away, like, just for a bit. And the HR manager looked at me and went, I was like, okay, whatever. And he kind of looked at me, and I just sort of smiled. And so he half closed it. I thought, I'll take half closed. But that's near enough. I'm not going to push the point, whatever. And so we started talking or whatever.
Oh,
and then
he half closed the lid. Okay.
Yeah, he half closed it. So it was like compromise. I thought that's a good enough signal. You know, it's like I'm okay with that. I don't need to win. And time was when I would have tried to win, to be honest with you, but less so nowadays. And so he half closed it, and then pretty soon we were talking about stuff, because again, I tend to do it very like conversationally. That's to me the strongest way of engaging people. They've got skin in the game then if they're talking. And I pretty much noticed he put his laptop away. So and then he came to talk to me at coffee, and then he came to talk to me at lunch. In fact, he invited me to stay for lunch because I wasn't invited. And I thought, this guy's interested. So I kept in touch with him, and I said to him, I talked to him about whether he had a coach, and he was a bit like, oh, you know, I've had him. I was like, okay, that's interesting. Why? What was wrong with it? And he was like, oh, well, I can tell you that. And so I started making some notes and whatever. And I said, okay, what would you want out of your coaching? And he went, oh, well, I think it would be this. Like, cool. I said, well, I can do that with you. And then he flipped and was like, there's no budget. I said, that's cool, because I don't want paying. I just want the experience and a testimonial. Can you do that? Oh, and your time, because I know you're really busy. And he was like, okay. So we did it for a while, and he loved it, and he saw a huge personal benefit. And eventually he said, I'd like to pay you. I'm like, okay, that's cool. I said, but this is going to be really embarrassing. And he said, what's that? I said, I don't know what to charge. And he went, oh. I said, but you hire, like, your organization, it's quite a big organization, you must hire tons of executive coaches. So luckily for me, you'll know what I should charge. And so he told me the range, and I went, cool. How do I fare in that range? This is so funny.
You
like,
kept bouncing it back. Wow.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And I said, how do I fare in that range? He went, oh, you're good. And then he went, oh, shit. Because like, this is absolutely God's honest truth. I could get him on the call, back it up. I'm not making it up. And he went, oh, okay, I suppose we better pay you that. And it was, I thought it was quite a lot of money. It was good. I was like, a bit full of myself, So I talked my way into working with a few other people, and they said, what do you charge? So I just quoted that. And they were like, oh, yeah. I said, well, that's what XYZ organization pay me. What can I do? They're like, oh, okay. And that's how I got in. Just keep working it, because that's what works for me. That's find what works for you. And I think that's, everybody's selling methodologies and blueprints and whatever, and it's like, fine, that's all great, it's interesting, it's mentally titillating. I don't see it produces loads and loads of great coaches who are employed.
So
and the people who come on my stuff, they'll vouch for the fact that I just keep bouncing it back at them. No, do that, because it sounds to me like that's what they want to do, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I'm good with the idea of experimenting and seeing what feels right to me. I think it might feel really different, though, to do that with a kind of a glimmer of an idea that people do want to help, instead of people want to reject me and it's going to be so hard. So yeah, that's my big takeaway from this talk. And
that's cool. My guess is, Sue, that you know loads that would help people. Am I right in that?
I do, yes.
Oh, cool. There you go.
Thanks.
Like, it's so that straightforward to do. That's how straightforward it is to do. And everybody who's pointing at some big complicated thing, I think, is doing great coaches a huge disservice. It's that simple. Like, this is an example. Like, Oleg's done quite a bit of my stuff. He'll vouch for the fact that I keep saying, if you saw a young child fall over, what's the first thing you'd do? You'd go and pick them up. You wouldn't hesitate. We are wired to help, as far as I can see. Even people in the most horrendous situations, even the perpetrators, have been reported to when that like feud drops, they help. All sorts of strange stories I've heard of people still helping even when they're committing atrocities and stuff. We're just wired for it. It's just that most people don't leverage it. They don't utilize it.
Well, there's just a lot of unwinding in me about the armor. The armor was offered early and often, and I've been wearing it. So yeah,
completely. Yeah. It's like my, like, even not that long ago, I'd have pondered this call or wondered or whatever, and like the frame I hold now is that, like, the stronger my frame if I want to help is, the more that you guys will want to help me by asking questions or posting a chat question or messaging me after or whatever. The stronger the bond between us comes by that relentless, and it is quite relentless. I am quite pushy, There's no doubt about it. Like if I lock onto something, like the CEO of this organization I'm talking about getting into now, she passed my details to her PA, and my heart just sank. I'm like, first meeting, I'm telling her, I'm sorry. I'm sure she's a lovely person. It is a woman. I'm not being sexist. She is a woman. I know from the introduction, but she hasn't contacted me today. Like, where's the urgency? I'm offering free consulting for a half a term. Like, where's the freaking urgency? There isn't any. So that will be straight in. Like, this is all good, but and she'll know me by that point. I won't pester her with text or whatever, but I'm not waiting for somebody to manage a bloody diary. And I start, oh God, on fire. I can't do it.
I ran into that problem with offering free coaching too, that people had, again, skin in the game. The clients that got the free coaching were not really present. So that seems like a challenge.
No, because I can hear your frame in your mind of free coaching. I don't offer anybody free coaching. It's a waste of time. My experience was just like yours, but I couldn't see that it was the frame I was holding. I now offer people free 15-minute consults, and the moment they're on, it's like, how can I help? And if they give me 20 seconds of a story, I'm like, that's fascinating. Thank you. I'm not interested. How can I help? And I go straight back to that. Bang. And when I go meet with the CEO, it'll be the same. It would be all the same stuff. What are you trying currently? Tell me how you're resourcing your change. And I know she'll waffle like shit because they won't want to tell me the truth, because we're all nervous about sharing our vulnerability, our truth, aren't we? That's like we get jittery about it. And I know, and it'll be awkward for her, and I'll tell her. So I'll current pace it with her. This is going to be awkward, but this is why it will work. And she'll twig that really quickly because she sounds smart to me. So she'll get it. She'll understand it.
Awesome.
See, I won't let her run the strategies that she always runs, which is part of the reason why they've got the failure they've got.
Right.
I'll just interrupt them continually. And if I irritate the arse out of her, well, then she's never going to be a client for me anyway. But my guess is it'll go well, would be my guess.
Awesome. I just saw Christian pop in. I was starting to think it was just you and me talking. I don't want to hog the rest of the time.
Thanks, Sue, and thanks, Dave.
No, thanks, Sue. Great questions.
Thanks.
Great reflections.
Dave Berman is going to come in and ask. I don't know whether it's moved on from the question he posted, but Dave's going to come in himself. It's a live show. Dave.
Yeah, thanks.
Hi, Dave.
Good to see you, man.
Yeah, you too.
It did move on a little bit from when I wrote the question that I wrote. I think I can still squeeze some curiosity out of it. I want to actually ask a different question first.
Yeah, go ahead.
Have you ever encountered the word pronoia?
Yes. Yeah, pronoia, like paranoia, but the opposite.
The opposite.
Yeah. What does it mean? I can't remember off the top of my head, but I've heard the word.
The belief that the universe is conspiring on our behalf.
Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah.
But benevolent people everywhere are seeking to do us right, whether we're aware of it or not. And I was hearing that sort of philosophy underpinning what you were saying that Sue seemed to perhaps not have encountered before. And I find that so I read this book called Pronoia by Rob Bresney about 10 years ago when I first encountered it. I've since bought like 40 or 50 copies of that book to give away as gifts because it impacted me so profoundly. And the very beginning of the book, the first few pages, just completely turned on my head sort of default baseline assumptions for me. This was before I trained as a coach and learned about hypnosis and the inside out understanding. And, before I had any interest in being in this field, even this book completely reoriented my perspective. So yeah, I just wanted to share that I was hearing some of that. But what I had originally wanted to ask
Yeah, sure.
You spoke to it a little bit from the time I wrote the question, but I want to see if I can ask this, that maybe we'll let you speak directly to my situation, because I've been cultivating a community for quite a while, over 3 years, where I started out not even thinking about it as like a prospect pool. I thought about it, or I didn't think about it as part of my business at the time that it began. But over time, as I continue to give and give and give to this community with no thought about remuneration, the nature of my work kept evolving. And more, I felt like I want to offer service for pay to this community that I've otherwise trained to expect everything to be free from me. And so hearing you describe the approach that you're taking it's refreshing, and it's heartening for a lot of reasons. And I'm trying to kind of map it onto my experiences. I'm still working out, how do I transition from just serving the fuck out of this community because I love it, because I care about it, because what we exist to do as a community is still something that I value and I'm willing to give lots for free to. But now there's sort of an upper limit to that. I won't go past this point of time and effort and dedication, because I need for this community to recognize that it needs to support me in order for me to be able to continue supporting it, that it's a virtuous cycle of life in a way.
Yeah.
And so I would just welcome any reflections on
sure.
Evolving that relationship with my group.
Yeah. I think what's easiest for me to do, if it's okay with you, I'll just talk about my experience, and then you'll hear what you need to hear, because I can speak about that most directly. So when we talk about working for free, what I'm saying in this case of this work that I'm planning to do is that I won't be raising invoices initially to them. My guess is if they go with me and they like it, that it won't take me so long to get to the point where they'll be like, we want to pay you. And one of the, you have to think of the reasons people want to pay you, right? This is often what people don't look at. One of the reasons that they're going to want to pay me is they're going to want to keep me. That's honestly.
So like a perceived risk of scarcity.
Yeah. They're going to want to have me around because I'm going to make such a difference for them. That they're gonna want it. So that's one of the reasons why people will pay us. They're like, oh, hang on, I don't want him to go. This is working. We want more of this, right? And it can sound crazily arrogant, can't it? But the bottom line with most organizations that and I've learned this organically. So I don't have formal business training either. I'm a complete rank amateur. I just talk quite a lot and I pick stuff up quite quickly. That's it. I don't have lots of formal training and stuff. That's never been my route's always been like the collision route, from just organically landing in places. But most people are so bad at stuff, it doesn't take that much to turn it around. It's the honest truth. Like I know that sounds like harsh or whatever, but I can see Christians nodding in the corner, like just at my peripheral vision there. It's like most people are so cataclysmically terrible at leadership and management and stuff that pretty much anywhere you go, if you haven't got 3 heads and yap at people, you're like a breath of fresh air. So that's why I tend to get involved in running stuff, because like I'll just sit down and say, okay, how can we help? Like what are we doing that we don't want to do anymore? What do we need to do instead? Where's the blockages? Where's the stuff that you're not handling? That always exists in every organization. There's nearly always, depending on size of organization, but in small to medium sizes, there's always 3 personalities that they're ignoring to the detriment of the overall organization, because so-and-so's like that, or we can't upset them, or blah, 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 blah. And they niggle at stuff all the time. So all these things I'm familiar with. So I can just ask people the questions like really bluntly, where are your blockages? Who's not shifting, who needs to shift? And we just go straight at it. So people will want to hold on to you. So that's one frame I look at. I'm not working for free. So like when I said to Sue there, I offer free coaching. I don't offer free coaching, and I'm not working for free. What they have to give me is, well, they think it's going to be feedback. I'm not, if I'm honest, I'm not so worried about feedback, not because I don't value people's views, but I just know the subjectivity of feedback. I can, it's the halo and horns thing. I can be their favorite thing one afternoon and their worst enemy the next morning. It's just the nature of it. So I'm less worried about that. But they're going to give me credibility and hopefully referrals. And the person who runs it is very, very well connected. So like it's far from free. It's just that I won't raise them an invoice initially.
Yeah.
But the value stack for me is way worth some hours of my time to do work that I'm really, you guys can probably tell, right? I'm really passionate about getting in and swinging it round, because that I could just get a real kick out of turning things around. Maybe it's the David and Goliath thing, I just get a real kick out of swinging things around where people are like, oh no, can't be done, it's too hard. It's like, oh, when I left teaching to go into business, everybody told me it was a mistake. Oh, and yeah, that's what I was thinking about when you were saying about the pronoia, right? And I love what you said about that. I'd forgotten that's what it was. The reason I started to notice how much good was around was because I heard some people, and this is a while ago now, like a good number of years ago, saying how people were unhelpful, and they were talking about people like around the area I live who would never stop at junctions, and van drivers and whatever. And so my naturally antagonistic, argumentative, ego, if you like, went, oh, fuck that. I don't want that experience. That's not my experience. Forget it. I'm going to find kindness everywhere. I'm going to find people. I'm going to stop at every junction and let people out. I'm going to rule the traffic. And I still do. My kids really take the mickey out of me. They're like, oh, here we go. It's control dad in the car. So like, I'm helping them. They're like, yeah, you're pretending to be nice, but it's just control. But it's and what I noticed was it's the old what is it, reticular activating thing, isn't it? That when I put my attention, I noticed more people stopping, more people letting other people out. I noticed the people they said were unhelpful were the helpful ones. It was the guy in the van who led me across the junction, and simple things like that. I always make sure that I really look at people in the eye, and like I'm trying to look at the camera all the time and smile at them, and all those simple things, because so that's where it came from to start with. And I just started to notice, what? The huge majority of people want a simple, beautiful, contributory life. That's my frame.
Yeah. That's been my experience too, that if I want to notice and experience that sort of mysterious support of the universe and all of its, many inhabitants, the best way for me to goose that is to show up that way for others.
Yeah, completely. So yeah. And even go on, sorry.
Well, you were speaking, it sounded to me primarily about working with organizations, and I'm wondering if you have any distinctions that you would know for the situation that I was describing, where the prospects are with individuals rather than organizations.
Yeah, sure. I guess the query that came in my mind when you were talking about your specific situation was around intention, and so like and it's difficult because you're in a sort of, you're in a current situation, so you've got everything there. But one of the things that I try to do now is like share really explicitly, as far as I'm able to see, the truth as far as I'm able to see of my intention behind what I'm doing. So
yeah.
like right from the get-go. So let's take a different example, which is with individuals, entrepreneurial individuals. I'm running a mastermind at the moment. We're just in the first week of it, and right from the beginning, it was on the back of the 5-day challenge I ran, which was like a kind of business detox, clean up your business, cut out the crap, and focus on the stuff you love and all that kind of stuff. And then into a 12-week group, of which I think there's 8 of us in this time. And I plan to run it again in September, but I'd like to run it much larger. And I'd like some of the people who feel able, who are in it first time round and have got used to the frames that I use, how I look at it, to mentor some of the people. Now I've put that out like straight away, because one of the things that irritates the living pants out of me in personal development, particularly in coaching courses and stuff, is the gurus are always kind of doing this, keeping the cards close to their chest. You never quite know what's coming, and then you're going to be jumped on a sales call. So I'm like, okay, I want to do the polar opposite of that. I want to set out my stall right from day one. That I'd like to basically create the most successful, growing turnaround mastermind for coaches. And I've been like really honest with them, like straight away. This is what I want to do. So you're like my initial flock for that process.
Yeah.
And so they get like a price benefit. They get perhaps a lot more of me than might be possible in the future, because I want them, because I think by mentoring people in the same way, it will double their own power. So that would be the only thing I would say is like I've learned that over the years is the cleaner you can be about it from the get-go. Like when Christian said to me about coming on and doing the thing to start, that was a bit like, oh, I don't really want to sit and talk about whatever. And then the Q&A thing came. I was like, oh yeah, that could be cool.
Yeah.
But so I was really honest with her. Like sometimes clients will get in touch with me and I'll say, I really don't know if I can work with you. And like, I attempt to be as honest as I can within the frames of kindness, empathy, compassion, love, and all of that. That's over the top, and that just gives us huge amount of room. So what occurred to me now, sorry, talking my way through things, and I'm conscious of the time as well, is you might want to consider going like uber honest to your community if you haven't already, and share with them exactly where you are and how you're there. Like stick your heart out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've done that periodically over the 3+ years, and the most recent time was quite recent. And it has to do with saying the future of this group and all my work is using laughter to share this inside out understanding that I've had so many insights that go beyond what basic laughter yoga teaching and training is about. And all the challenges and struggles that I see reflected from the members of this group, they're coming from these misunderstandings. And I'm going to keep pointing to them, and I'm going to keep sharing about them through the prism of laughter, through the common frame of reference we already have. And for people who want to go deeper with me, you'll have plenty of opportunities. But this is the future, because it's
cool.
They're like this. They're intertwined.
Cool.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry, no, pleasure. I don't know if it was any use, but I think the cleaner the frame we can hold, the like, I know some people say it's nonsense, but the higher the intention you can hold, the better. Yeah,
I feel like you're pointing me in the direction I'm already headed. So there's a welcome affirmation, for whatever it's worth. Thank you, Christian.
Pleasure. No. Thanks for your question, Dave.
Yeah, thanks both, Daves. Yeah, great. I'm just thinking, Dave. Dave Kibby. It's been a lovely call, and just some really rich stuff in there. And although I didn't get time to ask on behalf of my friend, I'm sure that when she watches it, she's going to love this call.
Well, can't you ask now, or are you strict on time?
Oh, I'm not. I didn't want to impose. So it's a she, and she's a fairly senior person in an organization. She has a great gift for going in, sorting out problems, exactly the sort of stuff that you described. She's very, perceptive, incisive. She's very good at growing things. She's done it successfully at quite a high national level, and she's embarking on consultancy again for the second time. But it's as though when it comes to her own business, all of that disappears. And as you can imagine, she and I have had some conversations, but I'm really interested in another take, you know, someone who's less closed, less upfront, just if there's anything that occurs.
She's probably, like my initial guess would be, she's probably not using all of her own ability within her own framework.
And when you say framework in that context,
sorry, within her own business. So she's neglecting to use her own skills within her own business. That would be my guess. Is she's running it in a way that she would bollock the arse out of somebody for if they were one of her clients.
I bet she's going to kill me when she watches this.
But that would be, because that's the most common thing. That would be my guess. Is that she's you know, and that's normal. That's not unusual at all to see people doing that. You remember somebody asked the question, actually, who came into the challenge later on. But one of the things I did in the challenge was I started to talk to you all about looking at it from the perspective of someone who runs your business. Yeah. And that's why you know, so I would like, if you're helping your friend or I would say to her, it's dead simple. Just sit down with your business pragmatically, like you would if it was someone else's business. You'll see the holes in 2 seconds. Then fill them, either yourself or just pay someone else to.
Yeah. Oh, lovely. Yeah, I find it useful sometimes because I'm self-employed and deliberately so, but I do find it sometimes helpful just to have the fiction of there's Christian McNeill Inc. is the business, and have that, you know, to have that, you know, to step a bit back from that.
100%. Yeah, no, absolutely, definitely. One of the things that I'm going to do at the end of the mastermind, although the guys don't know this yet, this is the first time I've spoken about it, is then offer an ongoing, almost like monthly board meeting for solopreneurs, where you get to play that role. Because if you're not familiar with that role, if you don't know that role, you've never done that role. See, I'm backwards. I learned about business by working in someone else's and then running someone else's business. So the role of running things for me is like, it's second nature, because the only way I could take over running a company that I'd learned about organically was to make sure I had people who had the right experience in all the key positions. I just had to learn how to run the company, and I spotted that most people can't run a bath, let alone a company. So actually, it was a fairly straightforward transition to me. I saw it was the skill set that most people really, really struggle with. They can't run things. For whatever reason, I find it quite straightforward to run things. There are so many things, like when Sue was saying about sales pages and whatever, I was like, oh my God, yes. I'd be lost with any of that. But if somebody phoned me up now and said, look, Dave, we need a meeting chairing tomorrow, I'd be like, oh, yeah, cool. Wouldn't bat an eyelid.
Yeah.
Or you know, an interim CEO place. Yeah, fine. No, it wouldn't even jolt me at all, because I see all of those things through a very simple frame of, are we doing the right things? Do we know what the right things are? If we don't, are we working at finding them? None of it's complicated. And it's just how I learned. I'm only reproducing the way I learned, basically. So my guess is that if she can, you know, she'll have enormous fun doing it, actually. If she can turn it into her own business and can sit down and look at it, and then she'll get to laugh at some of the stuff she's doing. And she'll see some genius in there as well that she's probably not giving herself credit for.
Yeah.
Could be huge fun, but it's really beneficial for everybody, you know, whether people think they're self-employed or whatever. You are, you know, fundamentally you're running an organization. It's just that you're doing most of the tasks, which, and talking to somebody yesterday, they were talking about, you know, how can I do, it's someone who's working but is setting their coaching practice up part-time to transition, but how come in work I do all this stuff, but in my own business, you know, I don't? It's like, it's really simple. At work you have to. It's that easy. Like there are going to be problems if you don't. In your own business, you know, you can just weep at night or cut back on the fuel, or so. Do you know what I mean? There isn't that real sense of like, I've got to do this. And when there is, people get shit done.
Cool.
So yeah, I don't know if that will help her. But...
No, it's lovely. Like, great. Great call. Thank you so much. Yeah, really.
Thanks for organising it, and thank you everybody for coming in, and anybody who listens live, and like please send me questions or
where can people contact you? Where's the best place to contact you? And I'll put it on the YouTube.
What I'll do actually is I'll put a link for what I call my free consult, which is like just 15 minutes together on Zoom, which I can record if you like, and like you just give me your challenge and we talk about it. But it is like you give me your challenge and we talk about it. It's not you tell me lots of stories of your past. Like, with all love and respect, it won't help you listening to it. So I just don't. I'm really tight on that, and I'm really tight on the time as well. So I'll give you a link, Christian, for that. Okay. Otherwise, like most of you know, I'm at Dave Kibby on all social platforms, or davekibby@gmail.com. Okay. If you're interested in my mastermind, it starts in September. Plug.
Cool. Excellent.
All right.
Great. Thank you so much. Great call. Thanks everybody for being here. Thanks for
everybody. Thanks for turning up. Lovely to see you.
Take care. Bye everybody.
Bye bye.